Now, last night we touched on the subject of the good fortune of having a human life. So many of us take it for granted. But if we dig up a clog of earth from the bottom of a pond, there's more life in that clump of earth than what there are human beings on this planet. To have a human life is so extraordinarily precious. So very, very precious. Because unlike a goat or a cow, a rabbit or a frog, a worm or a slug, we have the mental capacity to make positive decisions that we're going to find peace of mind. No other species on earth can live without fear of being hunted or the need to hunt. Only the human being is free of the fear of being hunted or the need to having to hunt. We have the mental capacity to decide that we're going to become individuals that only send out the finest ripples anyone could ever imagine, and thereby become a protector of all living beings. To develop a mind that brings about that type of freedom, that type of happiness, one must understand that first we need that aspiration that we spoke of. That aspiration, if we put energy into an aspiration, that aspiration will eventually lead to a situation where, as human beings, we've reached the gate of what Buddha spoke of, for instance, as no more learning. We don't have to learn anything else. We understand completely what boundless compassion truly, truly means. Now, in order to rest in the tranquility of our own mind, in order that we can rest completely in peace, I suggest we need our human body. It's our vehicle, a vital aspect of what it is we need, one of the tools that we need in order to study freedom of mind. Now, that aspiration becomes, we start to put effort into the aspiration, and then we use determination, and with determination we slowly start to succeed and find our happiness. You okay there, darling? You don't have to stay here if you don't want to. You can come join Mummy if you wish. Or you can play. Hey. Yes. You know, and of course, in order to rest in one's own peace, the tranquility of mind, one must be very happy with their own actions. Now, of course, it would make me unhappy if I was to judge others, and so we simply don't do that. But if we think, for instance, that a vegetarian, for instance, is thinking about the well-being and happiness of animals, and that perhaps it's a good idea to steer away from such an industry. I've looked at calves who can find their mothers amongst a herd of cows, I've seen distressed cows who are looking for their calves within a herd. And so animals have feelings. Rabbits, when they see us, they run for their burrow. They wish to hide underground. A spider, if we try to pick it up, will try to escape us. An ant, if we put our hand over an ant, it will scurry to come out from underneath our shadow. No living being on earth, not one single living being, wishes to be hurt, harmed, damaged, harassed. No living being. And so, in order to rest in the peaceful nature of our own mind, it's very important that we're a protector of beings rather than a hunter, rather than having judgments and destroying them in any way. And so I don't want to be miserable, but with winter coming on, how wonderful if we were all to sit down with our favourite books, our favourite philosophies, and actually do a meaningful study as to what are my beliefs? What do I believe in? Where am I spiritually? Am I a mirror for what I believe? Am I displaying in my lifetime what it is that I believe? Or are they two separate things? I believe this, but I do that. Now, our ultimate happiness comes from the fact that we free ourselves of all doubt and confusion. If we have no doubt in our spiritual belief, then we should follow. And that gets rid of any confusion, simply because we're not living separate from what we believe inside. And we become a mirror image of exactly what our beliefs are. And so when we meet up next, we'll all be able to show each other those big pads that we had out over the winter. And we'll all be able to discuss further about how we destroyed that one worst trait, that one trait that we didn't like about ourselves most. Now, I know as a young monk, I was enormously judgmental, I think, and controlling in the sense that if someone was stripping wallpaper, I would take the wallpaper stripping tool from them and do it for them because I didn't like the way they were doing it. And so we can say that I was terribly critical, and I didn't like that aspect of myself. It didn't give other people space, and it was a nuisance, I think, to other people. And so that was the one thing I chose myself to free myself from. And to start with, it was very difficult because you was always thinking about, I could do that better. And of course, with practice, one learns to relax, and through relaxing, one learns to let go and give other people space and to trust that other people know what they're doing as well. And so that had a knock-on effect, like a domino effect, because it made me realise that I'd become more patient. Not only was I more patient, but my tolerance levels had grown enormously. And through trusting others, I found that people were commenting that why or how have you become so kind? And so there was a knock-on effect that made me feel as an individual that I'd grown into a more rounded person. Now, I had a vision that if everyone was to grow spiritually, all our shoulders would touch, in a sense. And because of the different colours and races and cultures there are in this world, we could become a colourful blanket, like a colourful quilt, that could just keep the vulnerable warm throughout the whole of our world, our habitat, the place in which we live. Now, this quilt is never going to be formed until such time as we start to actually practice what it is that we believe, by putting into action exactly what it is that we know inside to be right, the right thing. And therefore, if not a protector to all living beings, certainly someone who would never harm or send out a ripple that would have an ill effect even on a frog, that wouldn't even scare a fish, that wouldn't set a bird to flight, that would scare the deer, that would jump the hedge, that would worry the motorist, who would tell a miserable tale and on it would go.